Awesome. So, hi everyone. My name is Njiba Tirado, and I am the author of Wounded to Win: Finding Purpose in Pain. And one of the things that I'm going to do is just read the intro of the book, and then I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about how to properly steward pain. And so, the intro for the book is titled Pain. So I'm going to read the intro and then I'm going to talk a little bit about what is pain. And then the last part of the presentation is, some action steps. And so if you go to the next slide, Josette, I believe you saw the little graphic that you have often seen probably at the doctor's office or, in elementary schools, they will post that so that you can talk about how you are feeling. But a lot of doctors will ask how you're feeling from 0 to 10. So here's the intro to pain. If you have ever bumped your small toe on anything, you are acutely aware that pain inflicted on even what seems to be the smallest part of your body can affect you drastically. As someone who has had a series of injuries from riding my bike, running when I shouldn't have been, or playing sports, I know too well how pain to one part of my body causes my entire body not to be in equilibrium. Yet when I think of my multiple physical injuries, I actually chuckle. Why is that? One simple truth. I have the memories of the incidents, but not the pain attached to them. What is pain? Though I could easily use a dictionary and give the academic definition of pain, I refuse to look up what pain actually means. Pain and I have known each other long enough that I didn't believe defining it academically would be an adequate reflection of our long-standing friendship. So, as the word brewed in my spirit, I pondered about this book. I laid in bed one morning and thought, what is pain? As quickly as I had interrogated myself, a still small voice within me responded, pain is past or present actions impacting now. In one of his many sermons, my husband, Dr. Tito Tirado, stated, we do ourselves a disservice when we try to quantify pain. To be quite frank, pain is difficult to quantify because we all experience it differently. Losing a pet could seem very painful to a person who has never lost a human loved one, but someone who may have lost a family member to a gun shooting may deem the pain of losing a dog low on the pain scale. Kind of like when you go to the doctor and they say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is your pain? While the quantity of physical and emotional pain is arguable, the truth of the matter is that many of us are no stranger to pain despite how it enters our life. There are different kinds of pain. Nevertheless, pain, stress, pressure, anxiety are no respecter of culture. Pain does not discriminate. Pain does not care if you're black, white, Hispanic, male, female, married, single, divorced, the boss, the employee, a pastor, or a recent convert. Pain comes to us all. Consequently, it is imperative that we as people aim to continuously find purpose in our pain and process it through the riverbank that ultimately glorifies God. While some pain, like a paper cut or stepping on Legos, can be short lived, there are other pains such as death, betrayal, abuse that pierce your soul beyond what seems imaginable. The pain that causes you to scream at the top of your lung, God, where are you? The type of pain that pushes you to suicidal thoughts or simply keeps you awake at night while walking like a zombie by day. A pain that you can easily become numb to and smile your way through life, when in reality you are incarcerated but have yet to identify yourself with an inmate number. Yes, that kind of pain. I don't know what you thought of as I read these lines, but whatever it is for you, however you filled your pain blank with, I want to encourage you to join me on this journey of walking in wholeness and living victoriously. That is the introduction to Wounded to Win, Finding Purpose in Pain. And so I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit in this presentation about how to properly steward pain. If you want to go to the next slide, please. So I define in the book pain as past or present actions impacting now. In order to be able to find purpose in pain and to move from a place of pain to wholeness and healing, we want to transition from this to the next slide, which says that we want to be able to have the memories of the incidents, right? But not the emotions that are attached to it. So in the book, I speak a little bit about the physical aspect, or sometimes there are even more traumatic things that can happen, and being able to just to be able to have the memory, but not the emotions attached to it. And so how do we do that? Or how is pain even, how is pain beneficial to us? One of the things that I found very fascinating is that there are no exemptions or no exception. Pain does not ask permission to enter our lives, nor does it discriminate. Pain is not a respecter of culture, location, gender, or social class. That is something that you can always find commonality with other human beings. It comes to us all, and it has the ability to either make us bitter or be better. And so, how we steward it is very crucial to the wellness of our mind, emotions, and intellect. Sometimes you meet people who may be in their 70s, yet they're still dealing with some of the traumatic things that happened to them at the age of 10 because there was a fragment in their lives that has caused them to chronologically mature but emotionally still be immature. So it's very important that we steward pain properly. And so I find it interesting that a lot of times when we experience pain or things that are painful in our lives, most of us, go, God, why is this happening to me? This is so painful. And we want the pain to go away. And I thought it was interesting when I heard of this story as a mother's prayer for pain. There is a disorder that is called congenital insensitivity to pain. And this is a condition that people have that actually inhibits their ability to perceive physical pain. And so they don't feel any parts of their body when they are injured. And this often leads to an accumulation of wounds and bruises and broken bones and other health issues, which then leads to a reduction in their life expectancy. And so it's amazing how, as people, our pain, we can be praying and asking for the pain to be removed, yet the pain that we feel is also somebody else's prayer in a physical health realm. And I thought that was really interesting. Why? Because there are certain benefit to actually experiencing pain. And when we experience pain, so in this mother's prayer for this condition specifically, right, she was praying because her daughter was continuously getting hurt and touching fire and things of that nature. And so her heart's desire was, can't my daughter just feel pain just one time? Why? Because there are benefits to pain. Pain acts as a warning. When a woman is about to give birth, there are contractions. This is something that's going to happen. Birthing pains are real. When a child touches something hot, instantly their brain is telling them, hey, you don't want to touch that because you can get hurt, right? So there are life lessons that come with pain. There are benefits with pain. Pain also gives us an opportunity. There are inspirations that can be birthed out of pain. There are books that are birthed out of pain. There are the ability to comfort other people in our pain or through our pain, or people that are going to experience those things later on. And so there are definitely benefits to pain. And I think when we have a perspective that pain is a part of our lives, we're better able and better equipped to deal with them. Okay. And so, what is important? How do we actually properly steward pain? I kind of have it in the three A's. The first is acknowledge, the second is to accept, and the last is to act. And the next slide kind of explains it a little bit more, or a little bit better. What I mean by acknowledge, denial is the enemy of healing. Oftentimes, as an educator, I have met parents whose children had special needs, for example, and the school system has been saying something, the doctor has been saying something, and the parent is continuously in denial of the situation. And because of that, that child is not able to progress in society, in school, the way they would have if they had been given the resources to help them in that confined environment, whatever that's home or outside of that. And so I always tell parents, you are doing your child a disservice by being in denial, because the healing comes when you are able to acknowledge the fact that there is something wrong. What are the facts, right? So when we experience pain, oftentimes we kind of like to sit in this background scenario as if it's not really happening. Many of us are here today through a virtual conference or a virtual fair because of what is happening in our society, because of the pandemic. And so to be naive and not say, okay, this is a real thing, let's just go ahead and have the fair, in person, would have been very immature and detrimental to the health of some people. And so, what are the facts? We have to acknowledge what the facts are. From there, we want to be able to move into what I call accepting, right? What accepting means is making peace with what has happened or is happening as part of your story. You don't have to like it. You don't have to think it's great. You don't have to go and publish it or publicize it, whatever it is. You don't have to actually think that this is a great thing that has happened to you, but you do have to accept that it is part of your story. And what happens for most of us is that we tend to stay in the acknowledge and the acceptance part of healing, because okay, yes, I know what is happening, I know what is true, and yes, this is what is happening, but we never move into what I call the action piece. There is an action piece that comes with being able to properly steward pain. And I kind of have it with the three E's. If you haven't noticed, I kind of like alliteration. And so one of the things that is important is to be able to have an emotional detox. An emotional detox will look different for different people, but part of that emotional detox is, who are the people or the things or the ideology or the places in my heart where I may need to exercise forgiveness, as an example, right? A forgiveness of self, forgiveness of other, forgiveness of a community group, forgiveness of an ideology that I've held on for so long. There has to be an emotional detox, and sometimes that even means removing physical removal from an environment. There has to be an emotional detox. The second thing that is important in our healing is to educate. A lot of times we do the emotional detox, maybe we find a group of people, but we don't go as far as the education. There is healing in seeking professional help, and a lot of times we categorize what is going to be the thing. If I'm sick with diabetes, yes, I'll go to the doctor. But if I am in an abusive relationship, I'm not going to go to counseling. Sometimes we prioritize what is important, when all pain, right, has to have a level of education, seeking the professional help, reading the books, finding the resources that your city offers, in order to be able then to not only have that emotional detox, but also to have the intellectual aspect to what it is that you may be experiencing. And then the last part that I think is really important is to be able to encourage others. There is healing that comes when we are able to then take the information that we have learned, the process or the system that has helped us, and to then be able to give it to someone else, to be able to replicate it, to allow someone who is experiencing what we're experiencing, or who will maybe experience what we're experiencing, to then come into that to that knowledge and be comforted by what we have. One of the things we have experienced, one of the things that I tell people all the time that is a pet peeve of mine, because I don't think that the statement is accurate, when people always say, give it time, give it time. If you go to the next slide, you'll see what I mean. And I don't like that statement, because I don't believe that time actually heals wounds. I don't know what happened, but I don't believe that time heals wounds. Wounds are healed when they are properly cared for. Okay, wounds are healed when they are properly cared for, and so I think that's a very, very important information that we need to know. If I get a cut and I just leave my cut open without going and wiping whatever is around it and putting the proper cream, that wound has the potential to be infected, and therefore creating a bigger problem to my body than it was in the beginning. And so what we see is, when we have a wound that is not properly cared for, then you end up having the seed of bitterness, end up having the seed of hatred. Then those things can come and manifest themselves in how we talk to people, whether we trust people, don't trust people. And so there is a whole plethora of how pain can then affect our relationships and how we move forward. And so it's really, really important that if we're going to experience pain, when we experience pain, because it's not a conditional, because we all experience it, when we experience pain, that we experience it in a way that we're going to steward it, that is not going to cause us to become bitter, but to be better, and to also help other people in our community, in our circle of influence, to grow with us through the emotion, through the intellect, and all the things that makes us who we are, and continuing to just live boldly and fiercely and fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, it's an awesome process to be able to go from that place of having the emotions and the pain attached to it, to the other side of it, to say, okay, I have the memory, but not the pain that came with it. So that's kind of what I wanted to share with you guys. I saw a couple people write on there as far as the denial. The last slide was just a slide as far as if you want to be able to connect with me. My book is on Amazon, and you can find it there. I am on Instagram, Facebook. I do have a podcast called Walking Whole, and I'm just excited for the opportunity to have had this time to share with you all.
We do have a question for you. Eddie asks, who is your target audience? This is really universally applicable, but do you target parents, teenagers, adult men, or women?
I think that by virtue of me being a woman, and as far as the book is concerned, using my story as a platform or as a springboard to then talk about pain, I think that by virtue of that, I would say the biases is probably going to be towards women. But I believe, because of the stories that I'm able to bring through the book, I would love for people who are male, female, to read it, so that even as a father figure, or because I talk about even some of the people in my life as coaches in school, and people, teachers who played a part in some of that healing. And so, to be able, no matter where you are, I think you can be able to find an opportunity to use the information to then help the people that are in your circle of influence. I have had, some teenagers read it, and some of them is mainly because they are experiencing pain. So I would say the target audience may lean towards more women, but I think it's very applicable to anyone who chooses to read it.
Wonderful. Any other questions or comments? Marilyn says, thank you so much. Will you repeat the information about your podcast?
Yeah, my podcast is called Walking Whole, and it can be found on Google Play, it's on Spotify, it's on Anchor, I believe if whatever, what do you call it, app that you may use to find um, your podcast, you should be able to find it.
Great. Any last thoughts? Oh, is your podcast a panel discussion? Marilyn asks.
My podcast is not. It is an ongoing podcast. So my podcast is not a panel discussion. It's something that I actually started. I wanted to do for a long time, but I started during the pandemic once we were all kind of quarantined, and it is very much under 10 minutes. And so I talk about the ebbs and flows of being a wife, mom, educator, friend, sister, whatever you. So it has a multifaceted complex to it, and because of time, I want to be able to keep it short. And maybe one day I'll be able to move into that panel aspect.
All
But
right.
it is a weekly. It is. I publish every Monday at 10 o'clock.
I echo Cassandra saying great job.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to hopefully getting to know some of you guys outside of this platform.
All right. Oh, did we get a? Oh, here we have another question. Are you finding your students having pain associated with COVID?
Very much so. One of the things some kids have, just like any group of people, when something happens, we all, some of us thrive in those things. And so I've had kids that are like, "Oh, I've always wanted to be homeschooled, so this is perfect for me." And I've literally had students who have gone into depression mode to be able to be on meds. And part of that issue is more so because of the social interactions that they're no longer having. We live in a day where there's so much digital information and so many gadgets that we often think that because kids are always on social media and TikTok or whatever they're doing, that they love being inundated by those things. When in actuality, the one thing that they all said was they miss having that social interaction. So I don't care how far in society we get with all the texts and everything like that, there is something powerful to the human touch, the human smile, the human eye contact. And many of my students have definitely struggled with going from that to the digital aspect of learning. It is a big transition. I would love to partner with you as well, Mr. Eddie. So my email is there.
He's one of our authors, so you should find his email in our communications.
Perfect. Will do.
All right. That's going to wrap that up.